Dune Awakening appears to have some major problems when it comes to PvP, and in this video I'm going to break down what I saw from their recent stream. Now, Funcom invited a lot of different streamers to participate in a LAN Party experience where they faced off against each other. Some were Team Harkonnen, others Team Atreides, and they had specific tasks that they needed to get done. Now, at the end of their competition, they all ended up at a shipwreck ready for PvP, and this is where everything starts to unravel. And honestly, right now I have to say that I think PvP is cooked in Dune Awakening. At one point, one of the developers actually said that they found an exploit during these streams. And I'd have to say, no, it's not an exploit. Personally, I don't understand how they can call continuing to attack an exploit. This is just a simple design flaw. Now, I should say that this is a beta experience, so this is all subject to change, and the devs have said that they're working on having this fixed before launch. In fact, they promised that it would be fixed before launch, and that they have some different ideas on how they can fix this. However, we're already about a month past the initial launch date that was then postponed, and we're only 12 days away from the Head Start event for people that purchase the Ultimate Edition. So it's got to be fixed by then. The people that spent the most money will expect this to be fixed by the time it comes out. The issue is that there is a stun lock mechanic built into Dune Awakening, just like there was in Conan Exiles. There was the ability to keep someone stun locked. Now, when you run out of stamina in Dune Awakening, it will not regenerate until you're out of combat or you're able to kind of rest. So you end up in a situation where you could get stun locked to the point where you cannot do anything until you end up dead. And this is something that you can do against NPCs just out in the world, but you can also do this against other players. And Shroud ended up on the receiving end of this quote-unquote exploit, where one of the other players just continued to light attack spam on Shroud until his shield went down and he was killed. Now, most people have focused on this melee attack issue where people can just be stun locked until their dying day. However, there's another issue that I'm going to show you a little bit later on in this video that's also happening, and I'm not sure the devs are even addressing this. And it also begs the question, how are they planning on fixing it? What systems are they going to go in and augment to make it so that this can't continue to happen? So that you can't stun lock someone for eternity, eventually finishing them off because they weren't able to do anything. Now, I've said this before and I'll say it again, I'm not a huge fan of the way that Funcom has put together this combat system. I think it's got too many different systems working together at the same time to create the combat experience. You have the stamina bar, which right now your attacks don't require stamina. They're probably going to change that and make those require stamina so that at some point the attacker runs out of stamina. But then you also have the cooldowns for your abilities, which is also linked to your stamina. So there's a lot going on in the background when it comes to combat in general. And honestly, I'd like to see a more streamlined, simpler system implemented into Dune Awakening. Don't give me two different systems. Don't give me stamina and a cooldown system. Pick one or the other because it will be much easier to tweak when it needs tweaked. And honestly, I'd like to see them just get rid of stamina entirely, take it out of the game, and move on with a cooldown system. I think it would feel a lot better, be a lot easier to understand and play with than the system is right now. What things actually cost stamina versus what things don't cost stamina, you have to really pay attention to figure out what exactly is happening and which resources you're using for said action. So you've seen the issue with the melee combat. However, there's also an issue when it comes to range combat. If you pay close attention to what's actually going on the screen, you can see the guy on the left, it can't even approach the person that's shooting him. He just gets pushed back the entire time. And if I had to guess, I'd say the devs would probably say this is another exploit. But what you're really looking at is a flawed game design where people get stun locked by just about everything that happens. So imagine going into a PvP encounter where all you have to do is either be the fastest one to shoot someone or stand there and take the stun lock to the face. And during this clip, I couldn't tell that these guys were even using their abilities. So there's no Bene Gesserit mind bending where they're forced to stop, or turrets being thrown out, or any other things going on. It's just melee combat or it's ranged combat. And the way that this looks honestly does not look fun at all. It's no secret that I wasn't a fan of PvP in Conan Exiles, and honestly, from the looks of what I'm seeing in Dune Awakening, I'm not going to be a fan of PvP in this game either. There are games that I am a fan of the PvP in, one of which would be, say, Throne in Liberty. Others would be games like Call of Duty, where they're quick, fast interactions, and you're on a level playing field. But when it comes to PvP for Dune Awakening and Conan Exiles, I've always felt like Funcom tries to do too much. They try to make it too complicated, and that ends up leading to kind of a piss poor experience in my personal opinion. Now again, this is a beta, so they still have the opportunity to prove me wrong, but as of right now, PvP in Dune Awakening does not appear to be something that I'll want to engage in. It's definitely going to be a game of numbers. If you have more numbers than the other side, you can simply just stun lock all of the enemies with your numbers and easily overtake whatever force you're going up against. Now, this isn't abnormal for games like Throne and Liberty has a lot of crowd control abilities that will just keep you in place. However, they have a lot of resources that also allow you to get out of those CC effects. And I think that's part of what's missing in Dune Awakening. How do you get out of a consistent stun lock in Dune Awakening? Even right here where Shroud is shooting essentially across the map, I think that's about the farthest distance you can shoot with that particular gun. And he just has that person locked up and in a stunned state the entire time. This is more than just a single issue that we're looking at with these clips. We have the stun lock that's an issue, we have the stamina usage and stamina regeneration that all come into play with these clips. Additionally, the lack of need to use any of the skills makes it look like a combat system that isn't going to feel rewarded. The idea would be you need to use all of your abilities and you need to use all of your resources when going into these encounters. But the state of PvP in the beta is as simple as this. Be the first one to shoot, keep your target stun locked, and eventually you will finish them off. Now, I played a lot of the PvE in Dune Awakening and I find it rather enjoyable. However, the PvP just looks atrocious to me, so maybe Funcom needs to shift their thinking a little bit because they do make a good PvE experience. Maybe they just need to step away from PvP encounters entirely. Like I said, I haven't actually played any PvP, so I can't give you my personal experience on it, but in watching these clips, I'm actually really happy that I've stayed away from PvP up until this point. I hope that Funcom can figure out how to balance this or fix this in a way that is both beneficial to PvP, where these aren't issues anymore, and it's beneficial in PvE as well. I have my own thoughts on what I think they'll do, but I want to hear what you guys think in the comments section below. How will they fix this issue in the game prior to launch? I'd like to thank all my YouTube members for your continued support. Y'all are absolute legends. Don't be out of whack. There's another video on the screen right now that you can click to enjoy more of my content.